Hello and welcome. 237 episodes of We Were Gamers, a podcast where I talk to JJ,
Hello.
Michael.
Hey, friends.
This is Andy. A lot of times we talk about games, but usually we start off with the homeowning disasters.
Not always disasters.
What went wrong?
Michael?
Is your house still standing?
I'm just double checking. Hold on.
That's a lot of silence.
It's, not great.
It's not that big a deal this time, but it's something I think that we're going to put into the not homeowners minute, but the ancient good term for this segment called leveling up. You should all, both of you, put on your calendar to check the garbage disposal connector to your dishwasher. So I don't know if you've ever been under your sink and really taken a peek at how this works, but like your dishwasher has a line. The line hits a vacuum brake, which you can see above your sink usually. And then that line gets down into the top part of your garbage disposal so that after it's done draining, you could run your garbage disposal in case there's anything in there. And then it goes through your garbage disposal and out. But it turns out if people that install that stuff are slightly lazy / maybe overly confident or maybe halfway incompetent, overconfident, incompetent, or lazy, right? Like there's three options here. There's a chance that the little, I don't know what you call these. I call them ladder rings or binder rings, or you know those crank rings that if you turn the screw, it cinches the ring down. Michael will know the name for this thing.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I'm not going to be able to tell you the name offhand.
They use them in valves for hoses.
I definitely know what this is.
Okay,
but I don't know what.
Look in your motor. You can't say this in the next 10 years, so this podcast will be irrelevant. But look in your motor for your car, and you'll see them all over the place holding tubes onto stuff. Right?
You're talking about like the hose clamp screws.
Hose clamp, yes, the screw hose clamp rings, right? Yeah. Turns out last night at some point in time, ours vibrated off of the garbage disposal.
That seems not good.
It's not good when all of it's running. No.
Yeah.
There was a lot of water to clean up.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'll make a suggestion for you. Put it on your calendar. Just make sure it's still connected and tight. That's all you got to do. Just once in a while. It seems like it might have come loose at some point in time. We benefited slightly because inside that hose connector on both sides, it was pretty grody and looked like the inside of somebody that's been eating McDonald's for about 30 years. So I cleaned all that out anyway. And that's your leveling up minute.
Okay.
Luckily, we don't know what went down that drain. But speaking of food, Michael.
Yeah, so I saw an interesting question posed a couple of days ago, and I figured I'd share it with you too and see which side of this you came down on. JJ, you might have seen this because I saw it shared by the good people over at Defector. And the question went like this. If you could only have one or the other for the rest of your life, including everything containing and made of it, which one would you choose? Corn or wheat?
Are you allergic if you eat it too much, or could you develop an allergy?
No. Assume you can eat either one just fine.
So you either take everything made from corn or everything made from wheat out of your diet forever?
Yes.
So this is really problematic because of the derivatives issue.
Yeah, that's what.
If it wasn't, otherwise it would be a really easy question, I think.
The person who posed it originally said, obviously you have to exclude corn syrup, which I think trivializes the question.
Oh, that does trivialize the question because my brain didn't go to corn syrup. My brain went to corn starch.
Yep. Yeah, cornstarch is up there too.
That's the problem I'm having.
Realize.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and so if you because like corn syrup is also in a ludicrous amount of things.
You can substitute it though. You can make simple
Yeah,
syrups that replace
but
it.
you can't then go eat anywhere out ever
Well,
because
hold
all
on.
of those use corn syrup.
Hold
dude.
on,
They
but
use it all over.
So does the world stop using it, or do I
No,
just
just
not get
you
to
can't
eat
No,
it?
you can't consume anything
Because, like,
containing
I could find
You're-
places that don't use corn syrup, and in fact, these
Sure.
days it's a lot easier to not get corn syrup.
Sure.
But if you want, I don't know,
If
any type of
you-
sticky sauce ever created, it's got cornstarch
Right,
in it.
exactly.
Yeah, you want that orange chicken? Nope, sorry.
Do you? Yeah. How do you feel about never having like trashy good Chinese food again? Because you can't,
Yeah,
right?
but then on the other side, you lose bread and, flour just in general.
Yep, buy pizza.
Yeah. It's super hard, right? I think this is a really tough question.
I think
Do
we
you give up-
have to force ourselves to pick.
Tacos, or do you give up burritos?
That's not fair because some of the best tacos I've made. Shameful admission moment here. I order tortillas from Kansas and have them
Ridiculous.
shipped to my home,
Ridiculous.
and they're made from flour, not corn.
Look, I mean, there's a place for both flour tortillas and
I-
corn
I
tortillas.
would like
They're
you
good in
to-
different things.
I would like you to keep an open mind. As the man that turned you on to Cali dumpling, these might be the best tortillas I've ever eaten in my entire life.
Look, man, that's great. There's a place for both flour and corn tortillas.
Well, I'm just saying the shipping them from Kansas part. At least forgive the eccentricity of finding certain foods that we all like. He's silent about the forgiveness part here.
Look, bro, you could. I'm sure there's a taqueria near you that you can go to that has tortillas that are equally good. You
These
don't
are
need to go to
Sonoran,
Kansas.
and I can't find good Sonoran ones unless I start
You're not
trying.
going to be able to convince me that Look, there's literally got to be one somewhere between here and Kansas. So,
JJ, do you trust me as a human being? Like, if I told
not
you
in
we
this,
were
apparently.
if I told you we were going hot air ballooning, you wouldn't double check the place I picked. I know you.
No, yeah.
Okay. There's a chance, and you should accept that there is a chance that I may have tried almost every Orange County taqueria during COVID to find out who had the best tortillas.
Okay, but then your immediate choice is then, well, I got to go to Kansas. I can't go to like Mexico or San Diego, both of which are way closer.
Okay, but I heard about these. So there's Sonoran tacos. We're way off track here. There's Sonoran
Yeah, we are.
tacos, right? And there's not a lot of Sonoran owned tortillerias, right? And so I heard about this place through somewhere else. I tried it out, and that's the watermark. That's where they got to get to, and no one's done it. I didn't try it thinking there's no other option. I tried it thinking it can't be as good as they say, and now I'm having a hard time accomplishing the same goal for that specific type of tortilla. There's different types of, a burrito tortilla and a corn tortilla and all these other ones are different, right? And there are different strategies for creating a different taco. But for this specific type of tortilla, I have not found one better. So if you live in Orange County, Los Angeles, San Diego County, Riverside County, hell, Santa Barbara County, and I could drive there and try your Sonoran tortilla, email us at podcast@weweregamers.com. I'll pay for it. You don't have to. I'm not asking for a handout. I'll eat your food. It's fine.
Andy will try your tortillas live on recording.
Ooh.
How's that?
Okay. I got my recorder. We can do this. Okay, back to the question at hand. I think we have to choose. And you have to have one small reason why.
God, it's so tough, man. There's just it. Okay, I think it is probably. I think even though you suffer a really large amount of collateral damage by excluding corn, I think you have to pick corn.
I
Still.
think you're right.
To
Absolutely.
keep or to toss?
To toss.
To toss, and because corn. There are too many instances of things that use flour incidentally that you could then never eat again. It's like, oh, did you want to have like a steak? Oops, sometimes they toss a little flour on there and now you can't have a steak anymore, right? Like there's just too many cases of weird, like good recipes that otherwise have nothing to do with flour, where it's like, they just sprinkled a little bit on there. Like, there's just a little bit of flour on these chicken wings now. You can't have these, right?
I think there's also instances of doing the same thing. There's a lot of instances of corn and flour being used to do the same, like I guess you call it masa, right? You can make
Totally.
a tortilla.
You could use like
you can make a
cornmeal
tortilla
in
out of
place
both,
of
right?
flour, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
You can use flour to thicken soup. You can use, so you really only run into one or two instances of corn can only do this. And in one of those instances, I don't eat corn syrup. That's like one of my few rules that I have of just like, I just don't do it because I can find better food, right? Now, if I go to a cheap Chinese place and they happen to have done it, I'm not going to say I can't eat here or whatever. But like, I generally, in foods that I buy, avoid ones that have corn syrup anyway. So the derivative products is where you run into, I don't know what the ancillary fallout is, but I think the fallout is less if I pick corn to lose.
Yep, I think that's my
Michael's silent.
Yeah,
over
I'm
here.
in the same boat.
Okay.
Actually.
Well, that's easy.
I can give you a reason in one word.
Yeah.
Donuts.
Ooh. Yeah, you can't make a
Sure,
corn
yeah.
donut.
I have had a donut that has creatively used cornmeal
Now,
instead of
hold on.
flour, and it's gimmicky and it was good, but it doesn't replace a donut.
Is it only cornmeal or is it cornmeal mixed with flour? Because like
It's a good
making
question.
because
It
you can't
might
make
have been a
cornbread
blend.
with just cornmeal.
Sure.
And that's
Sure, it
why
might
you
have
pick
been a
corn, right? There you go. That's the answer. You can't make cornbread with just cornmeal. Fixed it for you, defector.
Sold.
Next.
Got him.
Advice, debate, advice. We got some emails we need to clear up after this really loud car goes by. Okay. We have 2 emails from last week, and I want to hit them now in case people are listening directly after, according to the component class thing that we did with Andy bought a processor to update his computer. One person was asking, based on what JJ you said about the Ryzen thing, and you had said, oh, well, maybe you should have bought a Ryzen. I wanted to reiterate that my motherboard is an Intel motherboard. So I think we've talked about this when we did motherboards. One, they're processor specific because they are manufacturer specific. The chipsets only work with certain chips, right?
And it's even more than that, right?
Yes,
Not only
exactly.
are they processor specific, but each class of processors, or I don't know, whenever the various companies decide to update the socket, the thing the chip
Generation, yeah.
plugs into,
Yeah.
right? It's not even generation, because AMD has kept the same socket for quite a while at this point. This AM4 socket, I think, is the name of it.
And Intel tends to change sockets every 2 years, basically.
Right, correct. And that is, in the past, how frequently Intel has sort of changed their stuff. But this particular time, they have kind of been on one for 4 years because they kind of had issues. Anyway, it's who cares? It's Intel's problem, not your problem.
Well, Intel had
check
production
what socket,
problems,
that's
right?
what's important.
Intel had production problems. So the LG 1151 sat around with no replacement processor for 2 years. So that's one of those issues. So yeah, that answers that question, right? I couldn't put a Ryzen in here if I wanted to, even though, you would
have to replace the motherboard.
I'd have to replace the motherboard, and that's not what's happening here. I'm to remind you, I'm thinking that, hey, based on what we're seeing with these new cards that are coming out, I'm gonna get bottlenecked if I don't push this processor up to something newer, just to make sure, because I want to keep this computer around a long time. And in general, that processor came out beginning of last year, and so we're not going to have much more time left with it, considering the Black Friday deals that went on. Question 2 was about the price. How did I know it was the right price? And researching it, you could find it cheaper. So to answer that question, 1, it was the right price on the day that I bought it, because there were 3 prices that were within $5 of each other. And you have to, the advice on this show is always make your money work for you, right? Buy games on sale if you're not going to play them right away. There's a few games you should play right away, right? If you're going to play it with your friends, multiplayer.
Yeah, or you really want to, you've been really looking forward to this thing for 5 years or something,
Sure. Yeah.
and you're willing to accept that maybe it'll be broken when it comes out. Hey, go for it.
or the except that like you could save $20, but you don't need to, right? Like you choose to pay that money now, and that's fine. We're not saying you made the wrong choice, but make your money work for you. So one, make my money work for me. Yeah, it was $5 cheaper on the day to get it from one source, but I ended up going with a different source where I got more reward money back, which overcame the $5 already to begin with. And then I think I forgot to mention on the last podcast, always check your reward money, like make sure you're playing to your strengths on your credit cards. The rewards that came with it were better. So I think I got a copy of that new Avengers game that everybody hates instead of a copy of Crisis Remastered.
I think the thing about that Avengers game is that the multiplayer is really bad and no one likes it, but people thought the single player was kind of all right.
And I'm never going to play the multiplayer. I got a bunch of free skins.
You're good. Yeah, all good. Play the single player, be like, all right, this is fun, and then you didn't pay for it, so who cares? Right?
Yeah, exactly. So you got to kind of take the whole package into account. Do your math, and then see what the bonuses are. Every retailer had a different game that came with that processor, and I got that Avengers game.
And maybe to someone else, the copy of Crisis Remastered is worth $5 more or whatever.
Absolutely,
maybe
sure.
Or maybe this one comes with a copy of Cyberpunk, and that's what you really have wanted, and so you should buy that one, right? Like, these are the kinds of they literally put those there to make you make that decision, right? And if you care about that, do it, man.
Yeah. So there you go. Those the answer to those questions that we got. I needed that processor to play new games. Michael, tell me about new games.
Well, I don't know about new games, but
so I didn't.
What podcast do you think you're on? Hold on.
Touche.
This happens. This happens.
I can tell you about a 3-year-old game.
I love it.
Okay, everybody didn't hear this because it happened before the podcast started, but is this the 1 game or the 0.2 games?
This is the 1.
Okay.
Although, I'll get into it. It might be closer to 0.5. I saw credits, I will say, on Super Mario Odyssey.
Oh, congratulations.
What a great game, man.
Oh, it was a blast. Just like a solid Mario platformer.
So now that you saw credits, did you go back and do the hard stuff, though?
So that's where I am right now.
Oh, so 1.5 games. Got it.
Yeah, so that was the 1. It might be more like a 0.5 because I have 400 and something moons out of the 999 that there are.
I'm pretty sure that JJ and I talked about that off pod, and he said that you had that coming, and I kind of laughed a little bit.
I mean that's a classic Mario thing. They've been doing that since 64.
I want to point out, though, that a lot of those 999 moons are literally you just going to the world and spending coins and buying moons.
Right,
from the fair or whatever it is.
From the shops, yeah. So, I forget how many it is total, like actual ones out in the world that you can go get. It's more than 400, though, obviously.
Yeah, it's in the high 800s, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right.
880-ish.
Okay.
A lot more Odyssey
good.
there.
I mean, are you a fan of Cappy, or would you like to see not Cappy ever again?
No, I liked the mechanic with Cappy. I think I've said before, my only complaint about the motions is I want some kind of attack move without having Cappy. Right, like in some of the older games, you could punch or spin around and hit enemies, and in this game you have Cappy and you have jumping on them, and that's all you got. And there were just a couple of spots where I kind of wanted that in between, but otherwise, I was a fan.
Even when you had control of other stuff, you were still worried about that, or is it just like there's enough time?
When you have control of other stuff, the controls are specialized to whatever it is you're controlling.
So is it a lot of time that you're spent alone where you have just too limited of a moveset? Or is it just sort of a minimum kind of thing?
There's very little.
I don't think he's saying that it's a limited move set.
No,
I think the complaint, and I agree to some extent, is that in like Mario 64, right? There's a button you press and he like swings his foot or his hand or whatever, right?
Yeah.
in this, when you do that, whatever that button is, he throws Cappy forward. Or if you do a motion, you could have him spin Cappy in a circle. But neither of those are like directly in front of you or like directly to the side of you, right? Because you're throwing it in like an arc out in front and then back. Or
So
in
if
a
something
big
got
circle
too
around
close to you, you've got to run away.
Or jump on it if you can.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's kind of
I get
limited.
it. I get it.
But it's basically kind of an edge case, though.
Yeah, I don't think it is, a huge problem because it, as Andrew points out, in a lot of cases, you are controlling a thing for the entire level. And so
Yes.
you don't have any choice but to be in this frog or tank or bullet bill or whatever.
Right. Or Cappy is intentionally taken from you and you have to navigate just with jumping.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there are a couple of puzzle mazes where to activate them, you have to throw Cappy onto a statue.
Yeah.
And you don't get him back until you get through.
Are those tedious or fun?
More of them are fun than tedious.
Okay.
I won't say that none of them are tedious because there were a few.
I think some of the hard ones start to border on tedious. But
I think that there's no way to avoid that kind of thing happening. So you have to kind of take it as a whole.
yeah,
And
Yeah,
some of it also is what you're, if you play a lot of platformers, or maybe if you only play platformers occasionally, it's what your strengths are. Because some of them are definitely, I found easier, but I could recognize that one of the ones that I found easy might have been something that someone else had difficulty with.
Okay. I mean, puzzle wise, that's generally how it goes too. You guys had probably different Baba levels that you were fighting on, right?
yep,
This is true.
great game. Everyone should play that game if you have a Switch. It's so good.
Absolutely.
I think
Just good times for everyone.
Did it come with Switches this Black Friday? I think it did. A lot of Switches, actually.
I believe it.
I think the bundle deal was still Mario Kart 8.
Oh, okay. Okay. It was still
That
Mario
was the
Kart.
one that I saw everywhere anyway.
Well, if they launch a new Switch with, which has been rumored for years or whatever, I would bet that comes with it. It's cool.
Yeah.
I probably
people
don't
should
need
play Odyssey. Good game.
I probably didn't need a fancy processor to play Mahjong either, huh?
No, well, I mean, I don't know. It depends how you want to play it, right? If you want to like get the highest level graphics in Yakuza Like a Dragon, your processor is going to help you out. But if you then use those graphics to play what is completely unnecessary just to play Mahjong,
So let me be clear here. We're going to talk about Yakuza Like a Dragon, but we're not going to talk about Yakuza Like a Dragon.
yeah, we're going to talk about playing Mahjong. And I'm not talking about the tile game where there's like a bunch of tiles in front of you and one player and you got to pull them
Okay,
off.
that's called Mahjong Solitaire.
Yeah, I'm talking about what I guess is the term is like Japanese mahjong or Riichi mahjong.
Riichi Mahjong, yeah.
And it's a 4-player game. You have a hand of tiles, and it works kind of like Jin or Rummy, but there's a lot of more complicated rules,
Yes.
and the tiles are all weird looking. If you're
Okay,
used
hold
to
on,
those,
hold on.
they look weird.
We don't mean to offend people here.
I
because
have learned what all the tiles are. They're not
Look, all
Yeah,
the
but, like,
tiles have Japanese characters on them that if you knew how to
Chinese
read...
characters, actually.
Oh,
It's-
okay. Got it.
There's almost no Japanese characters, but it's and so the person playing this, right? Yakuza is nice in that they will put for the ones that have like Chinese characters on them for the number, they put the little English number in the left, which is really nice because I have no idea what the brush stroke with the line over it and a hat looks like. What number is that? I have no idea.
Maybe you should take the time to learn another language, heathen.
I could, but it also just tells me that it's a 7. So, I'm or whatever. I
There's
actually
only
don't
like
remember
9
what number the
numbers
7
you
is.
need to learn.
It is only 1 to 9. It is not
Yeah.
that hard.
I think the set that I played with when I was in college had it had the character for the numeral, but it also had little sticks on it
So there's
in patterns, and the sticks
look.
were the
there are
JJ.
4
sticks with the
suits.
number.
JJ,
There are 4
at least,
suits like
at least
cards,
you could tell
right?
me that you can do 1 through 3.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's easy enough. 1 through 3. Yeah, there's little lines. But there are 4 suits, like in cards, right? One of the suits is sticks, like Michael is talking about.
Yep.
One of the suits is like Chinese characters.
Yep.
One of the suits is little circles or like flowers.
Yep.
And the 4th suit, now that I'm forgetting it, is
You'll get there.
forgot flowers, sticks, Chinese characters. They all have names too, which I'm totally forgetting also. Well, one day I'll remember.
It's plants.
I'm just gonna get.
plants.
I'm gonna yell something random
They're
later.
plants.
Are they?
Is it not plants? I'm pretty sure it's plants.
So there are what are called honor tiles, there are dragons. There are 4 dragons,
No,
and
that's
then
not
there are winds, which are also Chinese characters.
Yeah,
That
there's
are
4
for
winds.
north, south, east, and west.
Yeah.
Right, and there's the green dragon, red dragon, white dragon. I think that's it. 3 dragons. Anyway, the rules for this game are, it felt at the beginning very complicated. But really, what you're trying to do is you're trying to assemble a hand of runs of tiles in a set that are 3. So it's like 3, like 5, 6, 7, 4, 5, 6.
Okay, so
something
rummy.
like this, right? Right. So the rummy part, or sets of a kind of 3 or 4 sometimes. So like 5, 5, 5, 5, 4, 3, 3, 3, something like that, right?
So rummy.
Of the same suit.
Gin rummy now.
Yeah. And you need to build a hand such that, I think, is it 13 tiles, 14 tiles that you have in your hand? And basically your hand consists of these sets of 3 or 4 and then 1 pair at the end.
Do your opponents get to see your hand in this game?
Absolutely not.
Oh,
Unless there are rules where you can steal tiles that your opponents have discarded, and then that opens your hand up. Not that they can see all of it, but they see the parts of it that you needed to complete the set.
Okay.
That is helpful because obviously you get to take a tile from someone else. But when you do that, it also changes the way your hand is scored, such that if you steal a tile, you may be making it so it's impossible for you to get a quote unquote scoring hand that is worth enough points to qualify to win. Yeah. The game just gets.
Hold on. So
Yeah.
so unlike rummy, you're not playing all the time. You're making a hand only.
Well, so it's your turn, right? You draw a tile from the pile.
Yeah.
And then you have to discard a tile.
Sure.
And then it's the next person's turn.
But
And
in the middle of that, you're not playing sets.
no.
You're just making a
hand-
hand and then saying at the end, I win because my hand is the correct hand.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the difference between that and like an American style rummy game.
Yes. And so the Ricci part comes in where you can take a bet on yourself, essentially. When you get to 1 tile, Ricci is essentially declaring, I have 1 tile left to finish my hand. I can pay, I think it's 1,000 points or whatever, and you put a chip for the points or whatever, like a little tile for the points in front of you. And if you win, right, you can now do nothing else. You can't except get that tile that wins for you, right? So you can't change any of your other tiles anymore. You're just saying, I'm looking for that tile that wins me the hand. And if you do that, right, if you play this, like you call Ricci on your turn, essentially, then if someone plays the tile or if you draw it, it gives you bonus points, right? So you bet on yourself and then you receive extra points afterwards if you successfully win the hand, which is called getting a Ron, or if you draw the tile out of the pile, it's called Sumo. All of this is to say that this game is really fun to play, even just with 3 AIs, except the AI is like really good. When you start getting to the like higher levels, I can like hang at the I can win at the easy tables, no problem. I can hang at the normal tables and I do okay at the hards. When you get to the master level tables or the tournaments or whatever, I just get destroyed, and I don't know why. Right, because I'm just discarding stuff, trying to look for things, right? Like, oh, maybe they're discarding a lot of these bamboo pieces. They probably don't need that, right? And then I play my 4 of bamboo, and they're like, "Oh, Sumo, I just killed Ron, I just killed you. You lose 10,000 points." And you're like, "God dang it, what happened here?" And so that's the other thing, right? You start off with a certain number of points, and if you are the one who plays the tile that completes someone else's hand, they take all their winning points from you.
Ooh.
Oh,
Which it can sometimes, like sometimes you get a winning hand and it's not worth a ton of points because you just kind of like cobbled some stuff together, and it's like, oh, okay, like this is a 3 of a kind, and here's a set of 3, and whatever, it works. It technically counts as winning, right? I only get like 3,000 points for this. Or sometimes you have the magical set that includes there's literally guides out there for like I think Yaku is the name of it, but like how many points each of these hands are worth. Like I literally play with the cheat sheet up sometimes because there's too many to even possibly remember. And it's
Wow.
like, oh, you happen to have the double Hanuman Yaku that has like 3 of a dragon and the wind of your chair that you're sitting in and the round that it is, and also these sets. And it's like, this one's worth 35,000 points. You're like, oh, that's all my points and then some. I am now negative. Yeah, that can just happen. And because you have no like insight as to what their hand is really in a lot of cases, it just feels like it happens out of nowhere and you just lose the game, right?
yeah.
But then sometimes you do it to them and it feels amazing.
Yeah, there are some of those hands that are like it's like shooting the moon when you're playing Hearts.
Like if you can create a hand that has all pairs, but each pair is a different pair, I think that hand is worth like 20,000 points or something. But obviously, you need a bunch of different unique sets there, right? And that's really tough to cobble together. Or one that's like the same set 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 of all the different suits. That's worth a ton of points also. But again, how would you it's really, you have to be really lucky to get this kind of stuff. Man, it's fun. It's like, I'm like enjoying playing that as much as I am the rest of Yakuza, which is
I think
funny.
you're playing it and enjoying it more. I'm just gonna say out loud. You told us about Yakuza. You said we should play it. You were marveling at the RPG aspect of it.
It's so cool, dude.
But your focus is now that you're playing Mahjong, and that's what's gonna stick with you, right? Like even if you get out of this and you're like, I'm done with
man,
a
like,
Dragon.
I'm still doing the like side stuff, and like the story is getting, is starting to show that action movie stuff that is cool from these games in general, right? Where like, I think I fought a piece of like a wrecking ball, like the whole, the giant machine that swings
Yes,
a
you
wrecking
told us
ball.
about the wrecking ball.
Yeah, I beat the crap out of that thing. It was cool.
Right
That's
on.
a good game. People should play that game.
Okay. I need some advice on games. This is directly related to the podcast. It's related to old games. People come to We Were Gamers thinking, oh, they're going to talk about old games, and then you talk about brand new games sometimes. Whatever. I have a problem, and I need your help solving it. And I know both of you will have good answers to this question. I want to play a game that was never released in the United States for the Nintendo DS. And
DS?
I don't want to pay $300 to do it.
So do you have a specific one in mind, or are you asking for recommendations?
The game or the way to do it?
The
Both?
game.
The game, yes. It's the sequel to Hotel Dusk.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So
but-
we're getting into emulator territory, clearly.
And I don't know
Right.
what emulates a DS.
So I'm sure there is one. I
have one.
I also don't know. Here is the thing about emulators. None of us are lawyers here, so don't take our word for it. Consult a lawyer if you're really worried about getting sued.
They may or may not be legal.
Yes. And my understanding, the software that does the emulation can be legal if it is done completely without consulting the actual, like they just wrote some software that does the same thing as what this other thing does, right? They're not allowed to like look at Nintendo's like programming guides or consult. They can play on their Nintendo and then make their thing do the same thing as that, right? But they can't like dig into the internals of Nintendo's software and look at that and then emulate, right? That causes it to be potentially illegal.
So I guess maybe one of my questions is it easier or maybe more on the up and up for me to buy and sell the cartridge, or is it fine for me to say, importing this from Japan and then trying to sell it again is not the best idea, and these ROMs out there are mostly okay?
Yeah, so the ROM is the part where it starts to get dicey, right?
I see.
I think you need to come to a understanding of what level of legality you're willing to tolerate. Owning a ROM of a thing you own is perfectly legal. You have backed up a thing that you already own, right? If you own the cart and you then own a ROM of that thing, completely legal.
That is the well within the constraints of the law answer.
Right. Owning a ROM of a thing of a cart you don't own is at best gray area, I think.
at usually illegal.
Yeah, I would say it is mostly piracy, right? You are generally considered to be pirating the game.
I see.
However, when the game never came out in your territory, such that you never would have had a chance to buy it anyway, legally, right? Because in a lot of cases, you are not allowed to buy games off of other.
I can't obtain
market
this unless I
storefronts.
get it from Japan.
Right, physically, right? Because you also can't do it digitally anymore because it's not possible to use that.
Yeah.
So now you're approaching the area where, like, well, this game isn't actually on sale anymore. Am I like stealing from the company that made it by not buying it when they aren't selling new copies anymore?
No, I'm just giving $300 to a reseller.
Yes. And so, like I said, you're approaching a gray area now. And I don't know what the answer there is. But, people can determine that for themselves. And again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know all the ins and outs of this stuff.
If you are a lawyer,
Sure.
I don't know that podcast at We Were Gamers is the right place because I can't.
Yeah. But like, there are plenty of communities of people out there on the internet. For a long time, growing up at least, anime was like that, right? So much anime was produced.
So
that-
much. You had to get through LimeWire.
And downloading episodes because they weren't available and coming out in the US and they weren't translated at all. So you had to get people that would go out there and subtitle them for you and then download that.
You had to download that. You had to put them both into VLC, get them to sync
do
up.
a whole bunch of stuff. Yep. And so, and the line they were walking there was saying, well, this was never available for sale, so it's legal for us to do this. Kind of.
Those were the days.
And so, I don't know now that so much anime then gets translated immediately on release and goes to Crunchyroll or Funimation. And
Well,
places like
nowadays
that
they
now.
know there's money to be made by simply putting, even if they don't dub it, they could just put words on it and sell in any territory.
Totally. They can sell a stream with translated text, and there you go. Right.
Yeah.
Some people prefer that. Right.
Yeah.
So that particular line of stuff is quite a bit less popular than it was. But for older games, especially like really old games, stuff like arcade games that you couldn't buy anyway, like they don't make these arcade boards anymore. Who are you actually hurting if you go run a copy of MAME and you want to play like Asteroids or whatever, right? You can't buy a new copy of Asteroids, the arcade game. It's not a thing.
Yeah, they'd have a hard time saying there's financial harm there, right?
The people who own it would have to find you and come after you, right? Now, when you're talking about Nintendo, I'm not going to put anything past Nintendo. They're suing people to stop playing their games currently, so who knows what they're doing.
What is this about with the Melee? They don't want people touching Melee anymore?
I don't really know what it's about, but
Okay.
there was a Melee tournament being played via a online emulation patch thing. Michael, help me at all? No?
I don't know that I heard much about this.
And
They cracked,
Nintendo
as far as I
sued
recall.
them midway through and
Yeah.
stopped the tournament.
So to run this tournament, you didn't purchase a copy of Melee and put a bunch of things in a room, right? Because you
Right.
can't do that because of coronavirus currently. And so to play in this tournament, you had to obtain and use a cracked version of Melee that you could use over the internet. Nintendo was like, no. You cannot run a non-Nintendo copy of that and run it at your sponsored tournament and make money. And they shut it down.
Huh.
Despite the fact that this online Melee thing has been around for years, and like they've run other tournaments before.
Yeah.
So,
but it became bigger, I guess, because of current situation.
Certainly. So, I won't put anything past Nintendo. But I think you're talking about a game that never came out in the US, you're probably not going to get sued out of existence. But, you have to consider the game never came out in the US. So, like, is it in English?
Yeah.
Can you would you be able to read it if you played it? And maybe you do read multiple languages and you can, and that's fine, right? But
Yeah.
that would be a concern for me, right? Or is there like a fan translation out there or something? And then you have to figure out how to do that. Or how do I apply this translation to this ROM that I found? And that's a whole other bag of
process.
worms.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I can't get through the start menu because I don't know which one is load.
But there are DS versions of this out there that we can make work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a DS emulator that I used for years. That
I would
was
be-
a little temperamental at times, but once I got all the settings tuned to
I mean, it's an odd
to where they
system,
should be, it
right?
ran fine.
The idea of being
Yeah.
able to, on a computer, use two screens, and on the bottom screen, your mouse becomes a stylus,
Yeah, they made it work. The only thing that I really ever gave me consistent trouble was there were a couple of games where they wanted you to blow into the
I was just going to say the
port.
microphone. Yep.
Yeah, and that there was no good way, at least when I stopped using it, there still wasn't a good way to translate that into a keyboard setup.
Okay. Copy.
I mean, Andrew, you got to consider, right? Like there are PS3 emulators, Xbox 360 emulators. There's going to be a DS emulator.
Oh, absolutely. And DS sold more copies of the system alone than all of those systems you just mentioned combined, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'm sure there's a 3DS emulator either in the works or, already working at this point.
It's just an odd system to emulate. A PS3 game emulates and plays the same way. You plug in a controller to your computer, the game runs, you play it the same way you would. So the concept to me of running a DS emulator and then trying to figure out how to it's an odd idea. I'm sure that functions completely fine. All right, we've come to it now. The beginning of the end of this podcast.
I was gonna say, do you want to hear about the point 2?
The what? Wait, I thought that was the extra part of the game of Odyssey.
No, the Odyssey was the one. There was also a point 2.
No.
There was a
You
second
said
game.
you had started. He juked me.
No, I think you misunderstood what I said.
No, you said, and I quote,
I saw
yeah,
credits on 1.2
you saw
games.
get credits on 1.2, but maybe 1.5 games. And then we said Odyssey. And then you said there was more game. And I thought, oh, okay, that's the 0.5 extra game after the credits.
No.
Okay,
What I meant
JJ,
was-
hold on.
I just want to hear what the game is, man. You're derailing us. I want to talk about the game.
I'm
Michael.
gonging the food court back into session.
Tell me what the game is. I want to know what the game is.
All right. I
So
lost.
you guys might have more history with the backstory of this than I did, because of where this came from. But it was an early access build of a game called Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth, and it is set in the Record of Lodoss War world.
All of what you said to me just now is gibberish.
Okay, so Record of Lodoss War, from what I've looked into, is apparently a D&D setting.
I didn't know that.
What version of D&D though?
Oh, I
Old.
didn't look. Yeah, I didn't look that much into it.
It's got to be.
I know
yeah,
some
so
stuff
this
from
is
D&D 1 and then like mid D&D 3 and on. So, So it's a D&D game?
No, it's Metroidvania. 16-bit pixel art, really well drawn. But it's an early build, and there are only the first 2 stages of it released so far. Hence the point 2.
Huh.
And the early access build was on sale during Cyber Monday. The next 2 stages are supposed to come out in the next couple of weeks. So I figured that's a good price to play something that looks fairly polished for an early access game. And it wound up being kind of perfect demo length. I think it was my playtime was right at 100 minutes.
Okay, so good
So
chunk of early access there.
yeah, yeah, it was good. The classic Metroidvania. It's got a map. You wake up inside a labyrinth with no memory of why you're there, and you're trying to figure out where you are and how to get out. It's got an interesting dual element mechanic. Your magic is either focused on wind or fire, and depending on which one you have active, it gives you certain abilities. So with the wind magic active, you can float, and with the fire magic active, you can walk through lava. And the attacks from a lot of the enemies are typed for one or the other. And if you have the corresponding element active, you don't take damage.
Okay, interesting.
So yeah, there's some switching back and forth, and it also incorporates having a bow to solve puzzles. So you can bounce arrows off of metal surfaces.
Like what was that game? Trine?
No,
did that.
Yeah.
Trine's more sideways though.
Well, the using the bow to solve puzzles like Trine is similar.
I guess, yeah.
Except that the arrows fly. They don't bend like they do in Trine. They always fly straight.
Huh.
Cool.
I wonder here, do you feel like you're going to go back to that game? 1, and 2, do you feel like they're going to give you a drip, drip, drip of additional access, or is that it?
No. So it's set up such that once you buy it, even in early access, it's yours, and they just unlock content as development continues.
So are you going to keep checking back in? I wonder about this because this is kind of the new way that early access is going, is like they build the ship or the road as you drive on it, right? It's no longer like, okay, well, the game is mostly done here. You could kind of play a early version of it that's a little bit broken still, and then we'll finish it up and then put it out. Now it's sort of like, yeah, it's in development and you get to test it. And so I
Yeah.
wonder a lot of along the way, how many people are buying these now to play a demo version of the game, and then do they ignore it and not play it again ever, or only when it comes out, or what happens to these versions of early access, which has changed in the last only 2 years?
Yeah. I think at least for me, the new layout of the Steam library with news at the top helps keep things like this, at least, in my consciousness, because they're whenever they update something on their game page, it feeds through to the news feed that shows up at the top of my Steam library.
So I think for an example, that game that a lot of people are talking about these days, Hades,
Yep.
had a very long early access period where they released it and they're like, hey, there's kind of only one zone. You can only can like mess around with these things. And then they added tons of stuff as they went along. And it eventually became the sort of fully featured game that it is now. And, a lot of people didn't want to buy it during early access. And, they stayed away from it. And then once it was released, came back to it, right? So I think you're going to get some people on both sides. Some people want to play it and they play it once and maybe forget about it because they decide they don't like it or whatever. But hey, you paid, generally, in a lot of cases, they sell it for a discount during early access. So, maybe you paid a little less and you got your game for cheap and then you decide you didn't like it. So you don't need to go back when it comes out to full release, right? Or there will be some people who are like, I'm not touching it till it's done, right? And then I come out when it's all the way out at 1.0 and then I can play it then.
Yeah. I think
And
it's
there'll
a
be
good
some
way-
people in between.
I think it's a good way to take community feedback when it's still early enough in the process that you can incorporate it, and to slowly build buzz around your game if it's something that's good.
And so I know that this is what you just said, Michael, is the process Larian used to make Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, and now are using on Baldur's Gate 3. And those games turned out amazing after they were in early access for quite a while, and they completely changed a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
I avoided playing those games in early access because I wanted to play it, kind of one time, once. And so, I think it's fair, right? That this is a way to do things.
A way, huh? You're segueing us on your own.
I'll check that out.
Hey,
What's the way?
We would talk about The Mandalorian here for a few minutes real quick at the end of the podcast.
Spoilers?
If you guys want
we
to.
should throw it out there.
Spoilers.
Just in case we inadvertently say something.
Up to an episode called The Tragedy, which
Yes.
was the current episode, not The Jedi, The Tragedy. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I hope you've left. What happened to his jackpack?
I mean, plot contrivance.
Yeah, I know, right?
Don't get it. So I've reviewed this question after doing the carbon scoring, which you can go listen to on YouTube or on our podcast app.
Yeah, check it out.
Because we kept saying, it seemed like a plot point. It seemed like a plot point that he just left it behind. I went and reviewed it. He's not wearing it when he gets on Slave One, and he's not wearing it when he goes to Navarro. So one, how do you leave a jetpack on a planet? And two, why would they possibly have made sure that he's not wearing it and it's not an accident?
I mean, they wanted to have a big shootout. That's why, right?
Yeah, I know, but I really hope that jetpack doesn't show up again.
If they are being good with their continuity, it won't, right?
Yep.
But yeah.
What did you guys think of the episode?
I don't have faith in that. It was fun. I had a good time.
I like this one.
Did your home, Michael, explode in happiness as I thought it might?
On which part?
Due to the obsession in your house of Boba Fett.
Not explode, but there was much happiness.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm happy they bothered to explain the thing they showed in the first episode.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seems like he has some pent up rage that he needs to get out.
Yeah, he seems like he's a little mad about something. Who could say?
I just said he got real good with a gaffy stick,
Perhaps being in the belly of a Sarlacc for 1,000 years has made him feel different. Isn't that what Jabba said when he throws him in, right?
Yeah, you'll be
or when he's throwing
digested.
Luke in.
No, over 1,000 years you'll be digested. Although it doesn't explain how you'll be alive for 1,000 years. I don't think you are alive. I think you're just in there for 1,000 years.
Could be.
If you have a different answer for that, Ken, let us know.
But it was a good episode overall. I think, good little action scenes, and, they moved some stuff around with the plot. We got to see some people we'd seen before. Good.
Yeah. I think that was a very plot heavy episode for, as well as bringing back in the character you knew was kind of coming based on all these early hints.
I remember the thing I wanted to say. It's cool that Dark Troopers are a thing now.
Yeah,
was that a thing before?
Welcome back to the 90s.
I was going to say the video
Katarn.
game. Yeah, that was the thing. I was like, oh man, isn't that a thing from that Star Wars Dark Forces video
It
game?
sure
Crazy.
is. Yep.
Those are canon now? Wow.
So
Okay.
you probably haven't listened to Carbon Scoring since it just came out this morning, but like one of my predictions is Filoni is just pulling, Filoni being the producer, is just pulling as many video game references as he can. And so that leaves Fallen Order still out there for pulling video game references from, of which there are many.
Yeah.
Was this a thing in Star Wars before this, other than the video games?
Right?
It was from Dark Forces.
The Troopers.
Yeah.
I think in Rebels, Thrawn is shown with one.
Oh, okay. So it's not like complete 100% left field.
No, I don't think so. I think it had been dragged into Thrawn. Thrawn used one as like a sparring partner for hand-to-hand combat in Rebels for one episode.
I didn't know if this was like a thing Moff Gideon had now invented.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I definitely
cool.
don't think they were used beyond that. It wasn't like in Rebels or Clone Wars or whatever they showed up as well. It was just one of those like offhand quiet references in Rebels that they never even talked about.
I think I didn't realize that they were robots in the video game, and I thought that they were people.
Oh.
So I think I'm happier that it's robots.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. I'm glad to see a lot of the like deadly droids of the universe show back up again. Like we had IG droids in the first season, HK droids last episode in the Jedi, and now you've got dark troopers in this, you know. It's good. By the end of this we'll have dark C3PO.
Didn't we already kind of get that?
Did we?
Just in the movie?
Oh, wait, yeah, that movie, right?
Did C3PO
He activated the
Messed
evil
with his-
core.
yeah, with
no.
his translator?
So there's a timeline in Dark Horse comics called Droids, and in one of those, C3PO gets reprogrammed into a bounty hunting droid. And he walks around with like 3 or 4 blasters, like IG-88 does.
I see.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fun, but kind of dumb.
I'm gonna file that under the what if verse kind of.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely not canon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we're tracking what exists still, I don't know.
Andy, did you, I have to ask, did you think you were safe when they wiped out all the stormtroopers right before that bolt comes down out of the sky?
I enjoyed that bolt more than everyone in the world because on Carbon Scoring, I predicted before this season started that the Razor Crest would not make it.
Right.
And I felt cheated after they crashed on that ice planet and that ship somehow magically had its glass repaired. And then they flew off in it. And then I had to watch that janky ship fly around for 2 episodes and think, I made this prediction and Favreau's just throwing it in my face now. And the bolt blows up the Razor Crest, which I thought was it was a nice touch. If you listen to the Carbon Scoring, Lauren talks about the motif of in a Western, the cowboy losing his horse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very much the same in this instance. I don't know about you guys, but I physically popped up in my chair and shouted yes when Slave 1 hit the screen.
Yeah, that was a great moment.
It was great.
I did not jump out of my chair, and I was like, "Oh, okay, they are doing this, I guess."
I was just excited that they didn't bring him down in some other ship where I would have to say, yeah, Slave 2 actually exists. It was in a book and it has a shape. And if you look on Wikipedia, this is Slave 2. And, you know, like, that wasn't the moment. They really just slapped down Slave 1 and they're like, okay, look, it's Boba Fett. It was good, in my opinion. Yeah. There you go. Mando talk. All right. Process your questions. Food debate. If you think we were wrong to pick corn, which I think you're going to have a very hard time since it was unanimous.
But I mean, maybe there's stuff we didn't think about, you know?
Yeah.
Could be.
Sure.
Yeah, let us know what we
Okay.
missed.
I have to say, I've already pre-ordered Christmas tamales. So
Love a good Christmas tamales.
clearly I'm not on board just getting rid of corn and willy-nilly over here. JJ.
Yeah, you can send those to all those questions to podcast@weweregamers.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on @weweregamers on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and probably other social medias that we need to pay more attention to. I forget about whatever.
We're not doing a TikTok. And if we do, I'm not doing it. Somebody else has to do it.
Not doing a TikTok. All right. We are out there. So check us out on all those platforms. Hey, we're on YouTube. If you would subscribe there, that would really help us out, please. And I know you're skipping past this part. So, hey, go subscribe to us on YouTube.
Maybe we
I'm
should.
hip to your plans
Oh
there.
man.
We should open the podcast with
I
this
was
next
literally
time
just
we
about
get
to
'em.
say that. This is now the
Get 'em.
time we've decided here right now to open the podcast with this. And the thing you have
Get
to
'em.
do, that I've noticed this because my podcast app has a 30-second button. You got to make it like 24 seconds so that they feel like they missed something if they skip ahead.
They have
Or
to
you
jump
gotta-
back.
Or you got to make it like
Mhm.
36 seconds and make the really important thing be the last 6.
Yeah.
All
So
I'm
the
picturing now is the Simpsons newspaper with the old man yells at Cloud.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a good thing we don't do this for money. Because we'd be really
if you want to
bad
give
at-
us money to do this, though, you can also send that email to podcast@weavergamers.com. We're not above it. I'm just
We will
saying.
happily have that conversation.
I would like to point out that multiple times on this we have suggested things and we have never been paid to do it. And it's somewhat of a point of pride, although I'm not above being paid to do it.
Exactly. We're not saying we wouldn't. We're just saying we currently aren't.
I'm also not above being paid to say something and then saying it's bad. I don't really care if we get put on a blacklist.
Yeah. It's darn. We go back to being a standard consumer like we were before and are now.
All right, duders, we are out.
Good stuff.
Nice job, guys.
Yeah. It's what, 2 more episodes now or 1 more?
Two more.
Two more.
And
you know
I'm-
what's funny?
I'm
Jay-
in agreement with Lauren. I think it's going to be a two-parter.
I agree. Yeah, I mean,
100%.
it's already set up to be a 2-parter at this point. And what's funny about that is JJ, I forgot to mention it, but I brought up Tim Rogers on that podcast, so you should listen to it.
Well, look, man, I was going to listen to it anyway. So now you got me peaked.
I don't know. Did that
Uh,
part fit as far as you were paying attention there, Michael?
Yeah, I think it fit well.
Yeah, it just felt like we were on the precipice of talking about like the deeper filmmaking that existed there, and I didn't know if we wanted to go that way or not. I can't tell if we just rambled and it wasn't any good or if it was good. I don't know.
No, I enjoyed it.
Okay. Can never tell. Because at a certain point you feel like you've just talked yourself around in circles, and unless you're gonna go to another level on it, you're kind of done, and then you wonder at the end, did we actually say anything? I don't know if we said anything
Yeah,
that
I liked
anybody else.
the horse parallel.
Yeah, that was good. He came up with that. He's a writer too, so
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's the name of the emulator that I've used.
oh yeah, I saw it. GBA
Your other
though,
option
huh?
would be, yeah, they updated it to run DS.
I see.
Your other option would also be to actually, there are ways to put games onto a cart and then actually run it off a DS.
Say that again.
You can put games back onto a cart
Oh,
rather than emulating them and then
Interesting.
just play them with the hardware. Yeah, you can do that.
how do you do that?
I've never really looked into it, but I know that instructions on how to do it exist.
Oh, okay. I would rather do that and play it on the hardware.
Yeah, look into it. You can find directions pretty easily from what I remember.
Okay, cool. I'll do that. Yeah, because anytime I have the opportunity to play something on the hardware, I will. That's why I bought that analog thing that's going to play like, a ton of different games.
Right.
Because the idea of playing it on the handheld system is still better.
Yeah, the way it was intended.
Well, then you start to sound like those people that are like, my movie should only be in a theater. And it's like, yeah, I understand what you're saying is that a theater is better for sound and video quality and all these things. But first of all, you don't control every theater. And I've been to plenty of them where the sound is imbalanced. And you have to spend 10 minutes in the movie being like, this really sounds like. And then you go out to the front and you're like, hey, it really sounds like. And now I've missed another 5 minutes of the movie. And then I go back in and I wait another 10 minutes for them to fix the sound. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
type
it
of thing
doesn't- it doesn't mean that it's always
privileged
better.
people who go to expensive movie theaters that never screw up or make you watch on IMAX or whatever. They don't think about the everyday theater where it doesn't actually sound as good as you think it sounds, man.
Yeah.
and then say "Hey, you can't watch it on an iPad. You just can't make my movie on an iPad." Versus saying like, "Well, you should play it on the hardware." Like, no, I just enjoy it on a hardware. I enjoy going to a movie theater, but it doesn't mean that I think it's better.
Sure, it is not the only way to do it.
I think that it is a more fun experience to have seen certain things on IMAX. I would watch every movie on IMAX if I owned an IMAX,
Well, yeah.
but it doesn't mean it's the only way to watch a movie. If you've made something good, I'll appreciate it no matter how it sounds or looks
Yeah, for sure.
in terms of its presentation to me.